realm.
So, come on.
Yes, please come up to the microphone.
Hi. First of all, I'm Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I read this article. I'm not sure if it was online or a newspaper, but it was about kind of like this whole like Mr. Rogers generation. First of all, big up Mr. Rogers.
Yeah! I was just thinking about him. I went to Pittsburgh a couple days ago, and they had a big display for Fred Rogers in the airport.
He was so old.
Yeah, well, he was older.
I grew up with my parents used to be like, "Better brush your teeth," or Mr. Rogers would give that. But anyway, you know, he used to tell people like, you know, you're special, like you're special.
Yeah.
So the article's about, you know, like people. That's fine. All right. You know, like, well, there's like a whole new generation of people like thinking they're special, kind of like they're like. There's this whole kind of like narcissism about like everybody. Well, I don't want to say everybody. I would say away from absolute.
Well done. You caught yourself. That's great. That's a big step. That's a huge. It is. That's a big deal to be able to be aware of your language, I think.
So my question, well, not really a question, maybe like sort of a question for everybody. Well, not everybody.
Everybody here.
You know, like, do you think that it's like loving yourself is like there's a point where like you have to say like too much self-love is like too much?
That's a great question. I had a guy recently ask me where I draw the line between loving yourself, turning inward to discover and know yourself, versus where you draw the line between that versus narcissism.
Yeah.
What is the definition of narcissism? Sean, what is the definition of narcissism? Sean? What is the definition of narcissism? Being narcissistic?
Overindulgent self-love.
Okay. Well, still though, where do you draw the line with how much you love yourself? So this has been something I've been thinking about a lot, because I consider myself someone who's engaged in a very heavy amount of self-love. Mental, spiritual, big physical, and it's been great. I've really loved it. I've loved loving myself for as long as I can remember. And what we've heard is that by turning inward and loving yourself, you have more to offer other people. They say you can't love anybody until you love yourself, or whoever they are seem to keep saying that. These voices are people giving advice, and I wonder exactly what does that mean, or how can I tell that I love myself to that point? And I think it's maybe like we were talking about earlier, when you're able to see some element of your deepest, most intrinsic qualities in other people, and somehow it seems like it works against itself, but somehow by turning inward you push outward, because as many have said, there seems to be something in almost every elemental aspect of existence that tells us that it is not set up with me and everybody else, or me and the other person, or inside and outside, or my head and the real world. It seems to be saying that it all somehow is one experience. And we can look at that on I think, a relatively understandable level. By thinking of it as energy, and we've heard this idea before, and I used to hear it a lot and not understand it, when people said, oh, it's all made up of energy, or it's all vibrations of energy. I thought that was again kind of corny or cheesy, but as I understand it now, it is true that we can trace energy, pure energy, to the source of just about everything we experience, whether it's a matter of physical, material, solid stuff, or thoughts, or the air, or other people, or life forms in general. And that seems to me to be very exciting, because on one hand, it scares me to think I'm not an individual with my own sense of self, but on the other hand, it can sometimes be very, very empowering to lose my singularity in the largeness of everybody else. I got most excited when I thought that everything only exists in my head, which is an idea I'm sure has occurred to everybody here at some point, that when you close your eyes, is nobody there. When the tree falls in the forest, is nobody here. And then somehow that idea seems to tie in very nicely with everything as one, because if everything exists in my head, then everybody is in my head, and it's one thing. The whole world is in my head, and that still is one thing. Now, it may be in your head, and then I'm, I guess, in trouble with that theory, because then it's all flipped. But it's still one. It's still this idea of oneness. And that's been a really fun way to think for me. Has anybody else thought about that lately? 1, 2, 3. 6 people. Oh, that's better than none. Oh, it's 7. Okay, sorry. Yeah, the hat.